Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sacred Rainbow Warrior. My name is Alistair McLean, and today is part three of the most common questions about plant medicine integration, 11 to 15. Today, I'm going to answer how can I integrate plant medicine into my daily life? How do I make sense and visions from my experience? That's a really good one. What if I don't remember much from my ceremony? How can I use journaling to integrate my experience? And what is integration, which is also an incredible question. So let's dive in. So, number 11, how can I integrate plant medicine into my daily life, right? So this is probably the most difficult part of integration, and it is the true purpose of integration as well, because it's all about creating movement. And I don't just mean physical movement, I mean the inner movement of your emotions and ego, which prevent you from making your dreams come true. And most of that is about making really powerful changes in your life. Now, that could be things such as breaking addictions. So I'll just use myself as an example. Um, During my journey of integration, I learned that I couldn't say certain things unless I was doing it. So I wasn't walking my talk. And in order to walk my talk, I had to do what I said I was actually doing. And one of those was giving up certain addictions and integrating them out of my life. So when I first started realizing, for example, this is an example that happened to me. I I reduced my alcohol intake. I used to drink quite a lot. I used to need it to have fun. And when I realized, through my ceremonial integration that it just was doing me more harm than good, I started reducing my intake. But now and again, I would have one. And, I kept hearing people around me who weren't doing their self-evolution saying, oh, one now and again's okay. But it wasn't. It never was. It never was. And so I had to put my money where my mouth is or walk my talk. And I had to give up alcohol, and I haven't touched any in years. And the reason for that is because alcohol is abused. It is a medicine, and when used correctly, it can be really beneficial. But that's a really powerful example of how to integrate your medicine experiences into daily life, because plant medicine cleans you. And it's not just about keeping your body clean, it's about making changes to your behavior in co-creation with what your soul and what spirit wants for you, what is best for you. And one of those things is addictions, because addiction is a form of slavery and it stops you from embodying more of who you are. And that's what integration is all about. Other things you can do are creation. So creation is a very powerful form of integration. So drawing, painting, or some form of art. For me, this was very triggering, and these are the certain things which are difficult for people, but this is how difficult integration is. I got the message from Spirit that I had to learn to draw, and I was like, but I don't know how to draw. And so I had to put pen to paper, and I found it really difficult. I used to have outbursts. I used to have narcissistic outbursts. I used to throw my drawings across the room because it meant so much to me and I couldn't do it. And these feelings of injustice come up, this rage and anger. And so that it shows that when you're going through integration, it brings up other stuff that needs to be healed. But if you can create through it, whether it be writing, drawing, painting, whatever it is, if you can create through it, then you're integrating it. But if it's too difficult, don't be hard on yourself. Just go in smaller steps, ask for help, and that integration will come around again. Another one I would say the most powerful form of integrating your medicine insights into daily life is 100% is exercise. And the reason for this is, as I said, it's about movement. If you're not moving, then you're not going to get the insights on how to turn your insights into real life. And for example, this morning, I woke up and I felt this really heavy energy. The weather's really like a blanket of cloud at the moment because of what they're doing to the skies. And we just had a week of sun, and I felt, oh, a bit low. And I had to drag myself out and make myself exercise. And when I started exercising, the more I pushed harder, the more I started to receive insights about my day ahead or the week ahead. And it gave me inspiration. So it gave me something to look forward to, something to do. And I always create a reward at the end of the week. Like on a Friday, I'll watch Solo Leveling because it's great. And so I'll give myself a treat as well, like and those some homemade cookies, healthy ones. And these are the kind of things, if you're too hard on yourself, it can be really, really challenging. Another one is dancing. So I started doing this in my bedroom on my own. I'm not asking you to dance in front of anyone. It's a really, if you look at my video on why men sexualize women, it's actually about dancing. It's not about speaking badly of men or of women. It's about the power of dance and how difficult it is for the average man to dance, especially a white man. And I found that that was quite life-changing for my integration because it was about expression of movement and reverence to movement, and that's a very, very powerful form of integration. You might be wondering, well, how do these help me integrate my insights into daily life? Because they're helping you move the consciousness and the energy move through your body. And like I said, that will give you insights in how to make your dreams come true, because at first you may not understand what your purpose is, so it's best to ask, what is your purpose? And then when you get your purpose, your ancestors and spirit will start giving you tasks and initiations in order to make that happen, and loads of obstacles will come up, and all of those obstacles are internal, because if you can't deal with an obstacle, then there's an obstacle internally, right? And vice versa, if an obstacle is coming up, that means there is an obstacle within you, and those are normally emotional blockages that need healing. And that doesn't mean go back into another medicine ceremony. It means do the work in reality, do the work in your life by making your dreams come true. Eating well is a really big one. It's very difficult. I'm still integrating that because lifetime of abuse of nurturance, because it comes from self-nurturance. And if you have any problems with your upbringing and you weren't taught how to look after yourself with food, that can be very challenging. So making small steps on making your own food, because your hands are golden, they're like golden creations, and we all have this ability to, when we make with our hands, we are putting love in it because our arms are connected to our heart. So we're channeling that love into the food, and when we eat it, it goes into it, and we become what we eat. So that's a really, really good one. Remove sugar, processed sugars, polyunsaturated fats, and well, meat, I suppose, because I stopped eating meat because, again, like with alcohol, it's got entities of cruelty in it. And I used to be one of those that did the carnivore diet and the paleo diet, and I felt the benefits of that. But when I cut meat out of my diet and I went on to a vegetarian or pescatarian diet, I did notice a huge gradual ease on my spiritual energy. And if I ever have meat, like I had lamb at Christmas, I treat it as a ceremony and I ask spirit if it's okay to eat meat. Because sometimes it is okay, and you're absorbing that animal wisdom, that medicine from the animal, like the lamb, the lamb of God. It's about sacrifice. And so when you really get deep into reverence There is a way to give reverence when the time is right to introduce now and again meat back into the diet. But eating supermarket foods and farmed foods is can be troublesome because of the entities that attach, like farmed salmon. That's I don't agree with that. If you're going to eat something, hunting and wild, eat it wild. But most people who can do veganism, I understand why they do that. But for me, that was too challenging. So, but these are the kind of things that can help you make really powerful changes in your behavior, which will help you integrate your insights into daily life. And essentially, it will help you move the ego out of the way so you can get on with creating your dreams. So that's what really integration is. Most of the integrational tasks like exercise, food, and another big one, which I forgot to say, is rest. So sleep as well, yeah, but I find that the best form of rest, and it's difficult if you're working a 9 to 5, but is an afternoon rest, an afternoon nap, like even an early evening. Just sometimes it doesn't, you don't have to fall asleep. You can just play that game with, I'll see how long I can keep my eyes open and just rest there with no distractions, just silence, staring out the window or whatever, just really coming into your body. That's a really powerful form of integration because when we're tired, we start to get snappy and we get tense. And that tenseness, that anxiety creates pressure on the soul and the heart and the body, the organs and everything. And it stops you from receiving divine coding. You need to be more relaxed. You need to be released more so that you can receive. And sometimes I find when I'm lying there, my whole body will vibrate. The more I've done that, my whole body will start to vibrate, and I will feel this loving embrace, like I'm being held in this nice warm blanket. So that's a really big one. Let's move on to number 12. How do I make sense of my visions from my experience? Okay, so this is a big one, and I talk about this through metaphor. Metaphor is a form of spiritual art, right? If you can decode metaphor like in the stories, like I'll give you an example, the three little pigs where he gets chased by the wolf and he blows their houses down. It's a story about boundaries of unconsciousness and compliance, because that's what the wolf represents. And the pig is a builder, right? And the brick house at the end, he kept the bad wolf, the big bad wolf out by building strong enough boundaries. So it's about building enough common sense, intelligence, and know-how through practicing building your boundaries, because essentially the three pigs are the same pig, right? First he builds straw, then sticks, and then brick. So it's about taking those steps to learn how to build your inner boundaries so that you can express them outwards. That's a powerful metaphor, right? And so when we receive visions, I'll start talking about some of my visions that I had. Um, for example, once it happened very rarely, but I had a vision from God. He said that um, I'm not going to share that one actually. That's quite sacred. I'll share another one. So, oh yeah. So, like I said in the first one about methods of integration, one of the ones that I found difficult was drawing, and I drew a fox, and when I drew it, it looked more like a raccoon, and I was really upset with myself. Oh, it's such a strong story and a strong vision. But what happened was I was ashamed of what I'd drawn. I feel really bad saying that now because I learned the lesson, but I put it in a folder and I locked it in my cupboard. And I was in ceremony with my partner, and she said, I can hear something knocking on your cupboard door. And I was like, what? She goes, I think it's the fox that you drew. And I opened it and I looked at it and it started talking to me and it said, always honor your creations. And I started crying so much. It was such a deep wound. It opened up my whole chest, my solar plexus, that I was screaming on my bed, like writhing around like someone had just stabbed me. And then I managed to settle down and I got this vision where I was in this cosmic courtroom and God was the judge. And then I heard this massive gavel come down and go, innocent. And I was like, whoa! And my whole body just lit up and I was like, ah! And my partner's next to me going, and I started crying and crying and crying. And I realized it was to do with the fox. I drew a fox, and after that happened, a fox came into the garden, and I could start feeling this energy of the fox of oneness, and I became the fox, and I got this vision on top of the God saying innocent. Got this vision of how much I love foxes, and that if a fox bit me or was behaved abnormally, it wouldn't stop me from loving it. That's innocence. And so when I made a mistake, I punished myself. And so the medicine was I turned it around and made myself the fox. And I thought, well, I wouldn't treat the fox that way because I love the fox. So now I won't treat myself that way because I love myself like a fox. So can you see how the metaphors, when you realize that you are the vision? So I was God calling myself innocent because I forgave myself. I am the fox. I am innocent. This is how you integrate. When you see every vision, it's a part of you delivering a message to you. Even if it's God, it's you. Even if it's Thoth or Anubis or Hathor or Isis, it's you delivering a message to you. And deciphering the metaphors are really good fun, really good fun. And I'm a specialist with animal metaphors. I do a lot of stuff with animal wisdom. That's my passion, and I offer coaching on that. I offer coaching on all of this on my website, and you can check out my podcast called He Lives, which is all about my akashic stories of animal wisdom, and then afterwards I explain the medicine of each animal. So that's another way of interpreting your visions. But essentially, your visions come through light, through your DNA, communicate through your DNA. If you want to read a scientific book on that, yeah, if you want to read a book that proves that, it's called The Cosmic Serpent, about this anthropologist who goes and lives in the jungle and studies how ayahuasca communicates. So it communicates through the light in your DNA, and that's what you're healing. You're healing your soul, you're healing your DNA, and you're bringing those parts back into yourself. Number 13. What if I don't remember much from my ceremony? Yeah, so this happens quite often. It's like a clear out of the mind. And it's also to do with forgetting. There's this collective wound of forgetting. So we've forgotten who we are. And part of the process of working with medicine and integration is to remember who we are at a divine level. And that takes a long time, but it's really good fun because it's a journey and you're supposed to, it's not about the destination, it's not about the end goal. It's always about the journey. It's about living every day. And every ceremony is part of your life because what happens in ceremony happens in life, inside, outside, as above, so below. And forgetting is when there's too much holding on to knowledge, too much logic. And if you're trying to remember something, my best piece of advice that I actually got this from my girlfriend when we were friends when we started out, but the best piece of advice she always gave me, which I found really difficult to accept until I actually started doing it, was just let it go and it will come back to you later. And I would let it go and I go, like, well, it hasn't come back because I hadn't let it go. And then once I let it go, a few hours later, depending on how big it was, or a day later, or a week later, or a month later, or a year later, depending how big it was, might be having a shower, going for a walk, doing some exercise. Oh, yeah, that's what it is. It comes to you when you need it. If you try and hold on to it, it's like that's a form of control, and your spirit doesn't like that. So it's just release everything, release control, release time, Release any pressure. And the more you do that, the more you come into rest and everything will flow. And so, memory, trying to remember something, isn't necessary because when you live life full in presence, everything comes to you when you need it, exactly when you need it. Even saying the right things and doing the right things when you get to this level of ascension. So that's really good advice. If I'd known that when I first started, that would have been really useful. There's also these metaphors that come through sometimes of being given a blank slate, and that can sometimes wipe the memory. But as I say, it's not essential to remember everything. But for me personally, when I first started doing it, I used to remember everything, absolutely everything that happened in the ceremony, like uncanny. I was known for this incredible memory. And then as I started going on, I started remembering less and less and less. So what I did, I started recording my ceremonies with my partner, and I stopped after a while because it was just too much transcribing everything. But I would make notes the following day or after the ceremony, depending when it was, and that way it helped me integrate better. Which leads on to number 14. How can I use journaling to integrate my experience? So I find journaling extremely powerful form of integration. It's really again on my podcast. I did some when I first started my podcast. I did some incredible because that's how I channel. I do like a channel writing beforehand, and then I read it out. And channel writing is really good, and it's really easy actually to learn because you just practice with what you hear, and you can create two pieces of like two Word documents or two pieces of paper, and you can write the good stuff and the bad stuff. Because what I find is like when I was learning how to discern between what is ego and what is my soul and heart speaking, I would my ego always wanted to talk about the horrible stuff, the violent stuff, instead of the love stuff, right? And so sometimes I would have to write what needed to be expressed. Like for example, I just did a podcast on the Jaguar, episode 19. And in order to channel the story, I had a huge blockage because it was an Akashic memory, and my darker side, let's say, wanted to hear the truth of what exactly happened. But what exactly happened was not something to put on video because it was really, well, it was horrible. And so I created two documents, and I wrote what happened. And then what I realized is that the reason my dark side wanted for me to write that, one of the reasons, was to grieve. And so I wrote about the death of a friend, and I started to cry and I started to grieve. And there were a couple of things that I used and I put into the good. And so you can do that with your journaling. If you're finding it difficult to channel right through your higher self or your soul, just practice, just practice and leave it. Don't delete it, leave it. And then come back to it and read it and see how that makes you feel. I used to find it really cathartic, which is a form of purification, where you can really receive some incredible divine guidance from yourself. If you just say to yourself, or write it, but it's best to say it out loud as well. Say, "Dear soul, please can I channel you? Please can you write through me?" That's a really amazing way. I would love to hear from you if that works for you. Um, I've got loads of examples of that where I've done that, and like I say, I do that on my podcast, and it's really cool. I invite the spirit animal in, then I start channeling, and it's the same with journaling. Just start journaling how you feel. Just journal how you feel, right? And keep it somewhere. Keep it on paper. Um, yeah, mainly paper, but I do digital as well, and I back that up because you'll look back on it one day, and you may want to use it because you may want to write about something, or you just may want to look back. So that's a really powerful and really heartwarming way of integrating your insights as well, because you can create goal setting exercises. Um, if you look in the description of this video, I have a link to a free plant medicine integration guide, and it has goal setting on there and journaling, which is really powerful. So feel free to download that. Okay, the final one, number 15. What is integration? So integration is several things, but really what it is healing separation into wholeness. I did a separate video on this called What is Healing? And integration helps us embody healing and turn those insights that we learn into reality. And most people find this extremely, tragically difficult. I've seen people who admitted they were alcoholics or had an addiction, whatever it is, eating disorder. And after the ceremony, they would say, "I'm cured." Happened to me as well. I had PTSD, and I woke up and started crying. I was like, it didn't work, it didn't work, because people are looking for that silver bullet, but it takes integration. And so what happened, what I saw, and again, this happened to me as well. So go back to their partner saying, yeah, I'm good, everything's great, stop drinking. And then when that medicine would wear off, they go back to the old habit because they haven't integrated it, right? And it's the action of not drinking, for example, is only a small part of the integration, because the actual integration is coming face to face with those fears that create the addiction. So there'll be an emotional attachment that every time you want to drink, there's a trigger inside, and it's about healing that. That's the integration. So it's about returning to wholeness. But the most incredible way I can put it, because I'm actually writing a book about this, and I've written some incredible wisdom around integration and the art of it, is yeah, it's about bridging between the inside and the outside, because life is a ceremony and ceremony is life. So everything that happens in your ceremony translates into your life. So when you're integrating, you're bringing what's inside into the outside, and you're creating a bridge between spirit and reality. It's really profound. So, like I said, I got a vision of my innocence, and I bridged that reality by drawing my innocence as an animal. It's That's the best way I can put it in that regard. The other form of the other definition, the most common and I think direct way of saying what integration is making the unconscious conscious, right? And that's a beautiful quote that I always remember. One of the only quotes that I remember is from Carl Jung. He said, if you don't make the unconscious conscious, you'll just call it fate. I think I'm paraphrasing. And it's really true, because the unconscious essentially is a storage for latent DNA. It's your gifts. People talk about psychic powers. I'm going to do a video on that. Your psychic powers, it's your intuition. And you can't tap into that power, that psychic power, unless you've integrated your unconsciousness. And some of the stuff I've had to heal, you wouldn't believe, because you wouldn't even believe that you have it. Like if I told you, and this is true, if I told you that you have a hidden unconscious wound of genocide, you'd be like, no, I don't. But you do, because it's a collective wound, because we all lived here, we've all been through it, and it's a karmic thing. It's a not just a karmic, sorry, not a karmic thing, an akashic thing. And everybody played their part. And these are the kind of depths that when you take the journey to fully embody your soul, to ascend but not die, so like it takes multiple walk-ins, and I'm still on that journey, but I've done so much. When you're taking that journey, that's how deep you have to go, that's how high you have to go. You don't have to, but that's what I did. Um, another way I can say what integration is it's about creating a new story, creating a new journey, killing your old life, essentially destroying your old life and destroying the old you, leaving the old you behind. So um, when you integrate emotional attachments out of your life, for example, toxic relationships, addictions, and toxic relationships can be family and they can be friends. And those are big sacrifices, big sacrifices. And when you make those big sacrifices, you get big rewards because you get pieces of your soul back and enormous gifts that you never thought you had. So these are all amazing questions and different forms of integration. Um, and I just want to say as well that integration is really, on a collective level, if we talk about society as humanity, is about coming back to our own human nature. It's about letting go of the old narrative, letting go of the old story, and creating something completely new that's never been experienced or even imagined before. And this is the new age that we're going into, the new earth. It's been created and it's being created, and we're moving into it. And for me personally, I couldn't have done this without plant medicine. Just my personal point of view. And I'm not saying that people should start doing that. I'm just sharing from my own experience that I became the medicine, and I share my medicine. And I don't think, my own personal point of view, that these incredible plants, number one, should be labeled as drugs. They're not. They're plants. Drugs are man-made. And I don't think they should be demonized. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason why they're demonized. I just realized I already did number 15 as number one in part one of what is integration. So I'm going to do an extra bonus one or the real one. What do I do if I need support, or how do I know if I need support? So if you're really struggling through integration, what will normally happen is suicidal thoughts will come up. These are normal. These are essentially your soul, your body. Well, it's actually your ego saying, I don't want to die, but your soul is asking for a spiritual ego death. It's not asking you to physically die. And these can be really challenging. I speak about this a lot I did a video called What is the Ego? The Collective Dark Night of the Soul. And it's very tricky if you get stuck. And that's why I spoke about all the different forms of movement. If you're really stuck, like feeling really down, and you've gone for a walk and you've exercised and you've tried that and none of that's working, you definitely it should be part of your routine anyway. You can't do it on your own. You need to speak to someone. You need to mirror yourself against other people. I used online groups. There's a great one which is free, which is international, called Men Who Talk. And there's so many different ways. I started with a psychotherapist who worked with plant medicines in America online. That helped me. And before I was working with plant medicines, because integration isn't just about plant medicine, it's about integrating any life changes. I learned how to identify my emotions through cognitive behavioral therapy, and I evolved all the way through that. So it's really important to understand who you are, what you are, and how you work through your emotions. And if you're struggling, I ended up finding a really good friend who became my best friend, who is now my partner. And she used to hold space for me without judgment, and then would tell me um, how that related to what was going on in my life. And that taught me how to do it for myself and to be able to give the medicine back to her. And if you have someone close to you who knows how to do that, that's great. But I also offer that. I offer plant medicine integration coaching on my website, thesacredrainbowwarrior.com. That's what I'm really good at because I've been through the worst of the worst. I've made all the mistakes so you don't have to. Literally, I've really done it all. And um, like I say, I'll keep saying this, you can't do it on your own. It's really important to have support. It's dangerous to think otherwise. And it's okay to ask for help. If you're struggling to ask for help, um, just you can reach out to me on email, leave a comment. But if you're struggling to reach out, that's your ego preventing you from doing that. Always do the opposite to your ego. But there's loads of different ways of seeking support. But those are my go-tos. Is always mirroring myself against others. And I spoke about journaling earlier, which is really powerful. You can also do that by creating a YouTube channel not to publish them, but to just speak to yourself like I'm speaking to myself right now, and you're you're just you're watching me speak to myself. So that's really powerful as well because I get to mirror against myself instead against others. And when I first started doing this, I could hear judgments coming from myself, and the more I did it, the more those judgments moved. Like I found it very difficult to view myself and listen to myself. And as time's gone on, it's actually really helped me appreciate who I am and appreciate my voice. And so I highly recommend that. Yeah, reach out. I'll be there. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.